Jahana, I'm so happy you were able to make it. We are looking forward to hearing from you because the people here have literally thousands of years of experience.
To your point, that this committee and this group of people has so much experience, that is something that I so appreciate. When I went into Congress this year, people talked a lot about this incoming freshman class, and I reminded them, nobody wants a Congress full of all freshmen. I don't even want a Congress full of all freshmen. And I think that my year has been so successful because of the variety and the depth and breadth of experience of other members who are there, who all bring very different and very unique perspectives. And the only way to do anything significant is to appreciate the value in what everybody brings. And I think that is something that I've always done. So I recognize that what I bring to the table is just a very small piece of a much, much larger puzzle. And I am always open to listening and to hearing from other people because that really helps to inform my decision making. So I think that's very important. I think we talk a lot about bringing in new voters and, you know, millennials and engaging young people, but we also have to recognize that young people can't do it by themselves. This should be, I think of it as like a relay where people hand off information to new people and invite people in and really begin to not really groom people, but share ideas and pull up chairs to the table. So I just so appreciate what each and every one of you bring to this conversation and to the work that has to be done. Thanks for sharing your Labor Day with me. But I'll be brief because I really want to hear from you. As you can imagine, school reopening has been a very difficult place for me. I have to tell you, it's probably one of the hardest periods that I've engaged in because back in April when schools first closed, I was on every call, I was talking to the speaker, I said, what is the plan for reopening? Because I don't know, we close schools, but at some point September is going to come. And so I was a little taken aback that the movement and the momentum on this conversation didn't start until late July, early August. I was like, you had to know it was going to happen. I think we lost a lot of time in the spring because what we should have been doing was thinking of the various ways of what reopening would look like. If we had to stay virtual, how do we make sure that kids are connected and that teachers have the training and the resources that they need? How do we make sure that families can support their kids? And as I've watched this devolve into this really political space, it's unfortunate because our number one priority for school reopening should be safety. And if that means we have to do it slowly and open slowly, then that should be the course that we're on. The fact that we're still having a conversation of if we can agree or not on if masks are appropriate, I think shows how little progress we've made in that area. And I've been very vocal on this. And I think, to your point, one of the things I pride myself on is, first of all, being candid and my authentic self. I think we cannot begin to address problems if we're not at least talking about them. If we can't acknowledge that a problem exists and then say, okay, now how do we fix it? But what I've seen and what I think we have to brace ourselves for is just a lack of acknowledgement where, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it with the impact of COVID on different communities. We've seen it with a lot of the police reform that we've been talking about. We've seen it with the conversation surrounding our service members, where there are members who won't even acknowledge that this is an issue. And we make no progress if we can't do that. There's so many things that have been going on. I have a lot of legislation I am very proud of, very excited about. But I think that as hard as things are right now, I think a post-COVID country, things are going to be even harder because we have to, over the last couple months, what we've seen is so many gaps, so many disparity gaps in our communities revealed. I think that to say we just want to put things back the way they were is irresponsible as elected officials. We saw gaps in our healthcare system, gaps in delivery of service. We saw just an illuminated light on our homeless population. We saw how bad food security and food insecurity is in this country, with lines around the corner and down the highway with people trying to get food. We saw, disparities in our education system, where some schools couldn't even open, or kids didn't have broadband, or they were disconnected. We saw social unrest all over the country. So to now say we get the country back healthy and we find a cure for COVID and we go back to business as usual is not anything that I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is saying, when we sit down to do the post-evaluation, these are all the problems that just were exacerbated in this COVID era. What can we do as a country, as a community, to begin to address these things? And I know we can't do everything all at once, but to do nothing is just something I'm not interested in. And it's going to be hard. I think this campaign season is going to be very different for me, just like everyone else. But what I'm seeing is that there are so many people who are unable to switch gears. They only know how to campaign one way. They've only ever done it one way, and they think that canvassing, phone banking, putting out lawn signs is the only way to engage with voters. And I'm trying to be as creative as possible to think, okay, that's no longer an option. What else can we do? We've been coming up with some really creative solutions to these things. And I think that on the other side of this, we'll be better off for it. The fact that I can pop into your into your meeting in the middle of the afternoon from, my home is something that I'm hoping that people will continue to use going forward as a ways to connect. And then the last thing I'll say is, and I think this is, first of all, I love everything about being a teacher. When people, I laugh sometimes because people in 2018, people would say, well, she's just a teacher. What does she know about Congress, or how will she be able to do this job? Every skill that I ever learned in the classroom has been, a survival skill for me in Congress. I know how to collaborate. I know how to communicate. I know how to listen. But I think my greatest gift from the classroom is that when you are a teacher, first of all, you build a career by loving other people's children, by caring about their future and making sure that they have the tools that they need. And then you are able to, as a teacher, you can kind of see the promise in a kid's potential before they even realize it. So when they're at a place where it seems like this dark place and they're like, Ms. Hayes, I can't pass the class, I'm never going to be able to learn this. As a teacher, you kind of see down the road. And I think that's where I am right now. So while we're in the middle of this pandemic with everything is going wrong and people they want to cancel everything about 2020, I really am filing away all of the opportunities that we've been presented with in this year. We have so many opportunities to really make our schools better. We have opportunities to address food security in a real way. Our healthcare system, no one in this country can go back to saying the healthcare system is completely fine exactly the way it is. And no matter what you think the answer is, whether it be, shoring up the Affordable Care Act or Medicare for all or some type of a buy-in, no matter what it is, I think everybody agrees that we need to have a national conversation about how we lower the cost of prescription drugs, make healthcare accessible and affordable, and make sure that it is available to more people, not less. I think doing nothing is no longer an option. There are so many opportunities, and I hope that the people on this call are beginning to see those opportunities. I know that there are a lot of people who are uneasy with the social unrest and the racial unrest, but I see people in this district and people in communities who are not directly affected by these challenges. They could live their life and put their head in the sand and say, this doesn't affect me and my family, so I have nothing to do with it. But what they're saying is, actually, I'm not okay with this, and this doesn't feel right. So let's figure out a way to work together. That's an opportunity for us. And that's what I am hoping that we can continue after November. There's a lot of challenges, but there's also so many opportunities. And I think as a history teacher, it's points like this in our history where the best of us emerges, you know, where people step up, where we have community groups, where service becomes a thing, where people are engaged and they mobilize and vote. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to right now and after the election. But I would love to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts I know that every single one of you probably took a collective sigh when I have people reaching about this payroll holiday. And I'm thinking, we really need to educate our communities on what all these things mean and why they're important. I have actually my own children. My son was like, I think the difference, if they stopped taking out payroll taxes in his check, it was close to $300. And I was like, but you do understand what that means, right? And once I explained it to him, he was like, oh no, I'm not interested in that. And there's a lot of things where people just are not educated and don't have what they need. They're paying attention, but in a very superficial way. And it just takes explaining it a few times. It takes putting it in real terms, not hypothetical, and not talking above them. And I think that's what I try to do. I think that's what teachers do generally. But there's this election is going to take there's a lot of splaining to do because people just don't get it. And I don't want anyone to think that the better option is just to check out and not vote in this cycle. And every time I'm about to finish, I think of something else. And the other thing that I can assure you of, everyone on this call, I can assure you of this unequivocally. We've had the primary. I'm the Democratic nominee. There is a Republican nominee. I've seen already hints of what this race will look like. My opponent just has a very different approach to how you win an election. They've had a very divisive message. They've come out with attacks against me very early on. I can assure you I have no interest in that. I think I've done some really good work. I can't wait to share that work with people. You know, there are so few things that I have control over and that I have a choice, but the way I run a campaign is my choice, and I will not run a dirty campaign. I will not respond in kind to negative attacks. And I believe that that's the way to go, you know, and that I think I'm compelled to do that, not just because of who I am, but because after close to 15 years in the classroom, I taught all of these kids that if you just do your part, you know, you can't control what other people do, but if you be of service and you do your part and you kind of go high, that, you know, the universe responds to that. So I can't now, as a mechanism, switch gears. You know, I just don't believe it. So I'm not sure if you guys are following along or how much you are seeing of it, but I plan to run a campaign with as much enthusiasm, as much optimism, as much focus on the issues as I did in 2018. Because then, like, now, hope is a strategy. You know, there's a lot of people who would say otherwise, but for me, it has always worked. And I have always been, I don't know if rewarded is the right word, but I've always been satisfied. You know, hard work has been sufficient for me, and that's what I intend to continue to do. And I could talk forever, so I'll just stop here so that if you have any questions, I can talk to you. It's so good to see so many people on the call, though. So
Oh,
I
thank
will
you.
leave it open to hear from you.
Well, thank you. And you know, guess what? You stopped just at the right time because we have the next guest. But before the next guest speaks, I want to introduce him and then give us an opportunity to talk. Brian, I know you're here. I just want to let you know that Jahana Hayes has been speaking, and we are now at the point of asking questions of her. So and we are recording this right now. So if you would like to mute yourself and then shut off your video, you'll be able to hear the discussion if you want to do that. And then I'll give you that signal and you could put your video camera back on. But right now we have a question. So I'm going to mute you, Brian. He hasn't connected yet to the audio. So I saw a question from, and I only have the first 6 numbers of a phone number. It is 637-030. I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question directly. And that's, I don't know if that's happening. So I'm going to read the question.
You didn't, oh, she's unmuted now, yeah.
Oh, she did. Okay, good.
I didn't know that was me.
Oh, okay. And who is this Deb?
It's Sharon.
Sharon. Oh, Sharon, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sharon.
Representative Hayes, I was wondering, well, actually a couple things. How do we, I'm on Facebook quite a bit and I'm trying to explain the difference between the Black Lives Movement organization and the Black Lives Movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. I didn't say that right, but anyway, and they're conflating the two. And so they're saying that the Black Lives Matter movement is Marxist. It wants to dissolve the nuclear family. I don't know what else because I haven't looked at that website, but I try to explain that the movement's different than the organization and that most of the people I would guess in the movement are not members. They're not card-carrying members of the organization. Can you give me a way to explain to people because they have the same name?
Well, first of all, Sharon, your frames are lovely. Your eyeglasses are lovely.
Despite the fact that I'm missing a part of my frame. Yeah.
You didn't have to tell that. But I have never used, it's interesting. I would not, if I were you, I would stay away from trying to defend it. It's not your role to defend it. I have never used, when people initially started protesting, people would ask me, do you support Black Lives Matter, the hashtag? And I said, I know that my life matters. So it doesn't have to be, I think when we get to hashtags and movements, it means that you are subscribing to everything that, and like you said, you don't know everything that a group or a movement is talking about. But what you can say is that I know that the lives of, the African Americans in my community and in my country matter. And it is enough for me to be a part of a conversation to support that goal, to make sure that we are opening opportunities. You don't have to defend a movement or defend a hashtag. And I think that's what, like you said, people start to conflate it and they start to pick things apart. You can take it down to the lowest common denominator and say, I know that I want to live in a community where Black people are not marginalized or treated differently. And I want to do my part to be in support of that. But I think that once we start, it reminds me of initially when I saw all of the rallies and the protests around the state, people were asking me, well, do you support defunding the police? And I said, I don't subscribe to hashtags because then it means that now I have to go line by line and either qualify, quantify, exclude what this hashtag means. I can tell you that I think that we need to support the police, give them the resources, fund them. I also believe that we need to have funding for community programs so they don't have to deal with things like mental health services, addiction, homelessness. So I think when you just back away from that, we don't have to be responsible for hashtags because if you haven't seen already, this campaign is going to be built around law and order. And this group of people believes in law and order and this group of people doesn't. And I think it's irresponsible to say that. There's no, as a Democrat, I believe that we need order in our communities. We need laws. We need rules. People should not break the law. So I really don't get involved in that. And it's unfortunate because that is what this campaign is going to be about. And I think the way we say it is, you know, even though 93% of these protests and rallies have been peaceful, these demonstrations. Right. So it doesn't even have to be, I'm here because, or I'm supporting this because. I believe that, you know, there are racial disparities. I don't think that they should exist. I want to be a part of the solution.
Okay.
Because anything you say, that you're just going to fuel, and there's going to be oxygen. You know, there's a group of people who have made up their mind. I don't know if they go to the school of excuses, but they keep spitting out the same excuses. They're ignoring the facts, right. Shifting the conversation.
Right.
And so there is no winning there. So I wouldn't waste my time.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Rich. That was a long answer, but this is going to be a complicated topic. Yeah, and I hope just to kind of be on this for just another second, I hope everybody on this call recognizes that we need to brace ourselves for some very difficult conversations about race, about equity in our communities, because these conversations are not going away. And we should all be, again, it's an opportunity. We should all be, you know, grateful and hopeful and optimistic that we can be a part of the solution, that we can be a part of the generation that addresses these things in a real way and looks at some of these systemic inequities. But it's going to happen, and they're going to be difficult, uncomfortable conversations, but they don't have to place blame on any one group or one community. I'm a Black woman, but I don't think that every obstacle in my life is there as a result of the actions of whites. That's ridiculous. But we all know that there are some things in our communities that need to change, and our response should be, you know what, we recognize these disparities, and we are all willing to do our part to close those gaps and change these inequities, but not to say, I want no part of it, or it's your fault that it happened, because I don't subscribe to that, and I just don't believe it.
Thank you. The next question is, I guess, a personal one from Ed Edelson. He has unmuted himself. Ed, would you ask your question?
Well, actually, the question I'd really like to ask is more about the campaign and some campaign nuts and bolts. As of the end of the last quarter, you were significantly ahead of your opponent with regard to fundraising. And I'm curious, as your kind of a view of the race right now, where do things stand? And also with regard to what's going to be coming, will we see debates like we've seen in previous years, or is that just another fallout from COVID?
So as far as fundraising, I spent a lot of time, I kind of fundraise in a very just steady way all last year. So at the beginning of this year when COVID hit, I stopped fundraising, actively fundraising from March till about June, because it just felt weird to ask people for money when so many people were struggling. I continued to see donations come in. I mean, people who could afford it continued to donate, but I just thought that it didn't sit right with me. I have a very different approach about fundraising. I have so many people teachers across the country who actively give me $3 donations every week. I mean, I recognize that I need the money. My race is one of the 41 frontline races that the DCCC has determined throughout the country, seats that we have to hold, because they recognize that people kind of have become complacent that Connecticut 5 is a Democrat seat, but because it was held by 2 Democrats before me, but for over 20 years it was held by a Republican, and it's a toss-up district. It's 50.1. So they're always just watching this district, making sure that we don't become complacent, because it also is recognized as, if there was a seat in Connecticut that could be flipped, this one would be it. So I recognize all of those things. I mean, I don't spend hours doing call time like some other members, because, you know, the first year I spent, if I had a committee hearing, I sat gavel to gavel in every hearing. There were many committee meetings where they were 7 and 8 hours long, and I was the only member who sat through the entire thing, because, I mean, you can't respond or have the information if you're not in the room. So that was the way I spent my time. But I still had a significant fundraising advantage over my opponent, and I continue to do that. That'll be really important for me, because like I said, he has already revealed himself to be interested in running a very nasty race. So I'm going to need those resources to communicate out a message, because I can't get in front of people in the way that I would have wanted to. I have agreed to every debate that I've been asked to attend. So right now we have 4 debates and 2 community candidate forums, which is more than any incumbent. You know, all of the other members of the delegation are like, what are you doing? And the reason why I've agreed to this many debates is because of COVID, because I can't get out in the same way, because we really don't have the opportunity to present a clear contrast, and because I'm really proud of the work that I've done. The only thing is that all of these will take place in October, because we are in session the entire month of September. So on Sunday I leave, and literally we have a Monday through Friday week every week in September, and the last week we have to refund the government. The continuing resolution runs out on September 30th. So we have a lot of committee meetings, hearings. September's a busy month, but I look forward to it. You know, I know my opponent is saying she won't debate me, she hasn't agreed. That's just a lie. I was talking to my husband about that word, because it's not a word that I would generally use, but this idea of framing things as alternative facts or misinformation or disinformation, if I said to my 12-year-old, you're being punished for spreading misinformation, he would say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's just call it what it is. It's a lie. So I have agreed to everything I've been invited to. So in the month of October, I have 6 different opportunities. I think the League of Women Voters is hosting one, the NAACP, the Chamber of Commerce, and there's a couple different community groups, but we'll share all of the information. I think they set up the parameters, so there's a few where we're in the same space and the audience is virtual. I think there's a couple on Zoom, I'm not really sure, but we'll definitely share out the information. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's any creative ways, other ways for me to get in front of people and just give people the ability to ask questions so that I can answer them. But I think the biggest challenge in the campaign is I don't want to waste all of my time and energy just refuting lies. I think our time is much better served just focusing on the issues. You know, this is the issue. This is what I stand for. This is what you stand for. Because as of right now, the only thing I can tell that my opponent, the only issue that I can tell is me. The only thing he doesn't like is me. Everything is just about me. So, and I kind of like me. So, there's a clear contrast.
So Congresswoman Hayes, I want to thank you for coming to this meeting of ours. It was really wonderful to have you here.
No, thank you all, and thank you for the work. I recognize you have someone else, but thank you for the work that you're doing, and even before this, for always being engaged and involved. And, you know, there's a whole lot of, we're going to hear a lot about, I think Sharon kind of brought it up, Marxists and socialists and all of these identifiers. I'm a Democrat. And as a Democrat, I care about people. I care about other people's family and other people's children. And when we start to navigate our way out of this pandemic, I want to make sure that we are not only ensuring that corporations are okay, but that regular people are okay. And if that makes me anything other than a Democrat, I don't have a response for that. You know, I'm in good company. You know, I guess Jesus would have been a Democrat because he fed the hungry, clothed the poor. I don't know what else to say. So
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Great. So we are getting into full swing from a campaign standpoint. We have our headquarters in Waterbury, where it was last time on Bank Street, but we really are not using it. Jahana has been so adamant about social distancing and not gathering people, into spaces like that unnecessarily. As you guys may know, her husband tested positive for COVID in April. So she has, and he's fine, and it was very mild, but she has been very serious about it. So we're really just using that as kind of a place for the staff to transfer information, to store merchandise, lawn signs, things like that. But we're staffing up with our field organizers. And as you guys have identified, Anna Richardson is the field organizer for the Southbury, Woodbury, Middlebury area. We are ready to hit the ground in any way. We're collecting volunteers. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, please reach out to Anna. We are looking for postcarders, people to make phone calls, people to phone bank, text. And any other way you can think of that might speak to your community, or we have to be creative this year because door knocking is out, large gatherings are out, so we have to think about how to get Jahana's message and her work across in a creative way.
Why don't I give Jeff an opportunity to speak and maybe update us on the state of his campaign and where it's going. Okay, so Jeff.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Hope you're enjoying your Labor Day weekend. Just to give you kind of an overview of how things are going in our race for 32nd District. A few weeks ago we qualified for our program for fundraising. So we hit our targets. We got the state grant. So we're fully revved and ready to go. We're starting our door knocking. We're doing that mass and everything too. I actually went out on Saturday and it was very good. There wasn't anybody that seemed to have any issues with coming up to the doors. We'd knock on the door, take a few steps back, give a little bit of space so people felt comfortable. And it was actually really surprising. It was very well received. I got some very good response there. We've been doing phone banking. We're also looking for volunteers for phone banking. So if anybody would like to do that, that would be fantastic. We kind of put a challenge out there to the current incumbent senator for a debate. The venue and everything is yet to be determined, but we're working on that process right now. We'd like to see that happen, at least one debate between he and I to talk about issues and everything that's going on, from COVID through education, through the environment, through bringing business back to Connecticut, everything under the sun. So we're very much anticipatory that he will do that. He seemed to be receptive to the idea of having that debate, which is encouraging. We need to have that discussion. So we're, like I said, we're on all cylinders right now. We're sending out mailers in the next, I guess the first one's going to be coming out probably next week. There'll be a series of mailers. We'll have videos accompanying our website that I'll be having quick snippet videos on each policy item that we want to talk about. And hopefully we can, that's just the beginning, and see where we go. We've got 57 days till Election Day. So it's time to get rocking and rolling. So
thank you so much,
everybody
Jeff.
here for your support on everything too. I know you guys are really, really big in helping out this campaign, and I really, really appreciate it. It means a real lot.
Jeff. Thank you so much, Jeff. Terry, where are you?
I'm here.
Excellent, Wave. Now, Terry, I'll just give you a brief introduction. Terry asked to speak because she wanted to talk about Rotary and some of the programs and projects that she would like to present to us. Maybe some of us, you, would want to be involved. So Terry, please share your talk about Rotary and what they can do.
Okay. Okay, I'm not going to take up much of your time because we've been on here, and that was very, very emotional. Sort of the officer that really hit me, and I don't think any of us will ever get over that. What I wanted to say to you, and this is kind of part of what Jahana Hayes said, and also what the officer said. I wouldn't want to change my grandchildren for the world, but I want to change the world for my grandchildren. So when I turned 50 and I ran out of estrogen, and my kids were grown and they didn't need me, and I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? Like, what do I do now? And what I decided is that I wanted to do things for children. And to that end, I started a literacy project, and I ended up in a lot of different school systems. And one of the things that was shocking to me, not to any of you, but was shocking, was the disparity of education. And I thought, I need to do something. This is unacceptable. And I'm in the healthcare field, and the disparity in healthcare. So it became my mission every day to change the world for my grandkids when it comes to diversity. And I just wanted to make the world a better place, as the rest of you do as well. So I ended up doing a talk at the Rotary Club, the Tri-Berry Rotary. And one of the first thing they said to me was service above self. And I thought, oh, I love that. Service above self. That's kind of what I want to do between now and when I'm dead, which hopefully is going to be a long time from now. And the other thing that they read first thing was there's a 4-way test. And the 4-way test for Rotary helped me a couple of months ago. I'm brand new to Rotary. I don't know about you, but the political situation is driving me to distraction. It's also driving me to drink. There's possibly a little more wine going down the gullet than should be going down right now because of the frustration of wanting to scream, to make a difference, to do something. So when they said this to me, it made me, I'm all in. It said, this is the 4-way test. Whenever Rotary does anything, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I thought to myself, this 4-way test is something we ought to be teaching in kindergarten or something. But I realized at that moment, service above self and the 4-way test, I wanted to be part of this organization. So a couple of months ago, I joined, and I did a service project where I took children's books, brand new children's books written by diverse authors, diverse writers that know more about this than I do. And we took up a collection, we did a donation thing, and we ended up taking these amazing books by these phenomenal writers, and we did a basket of books that celebrate diversity and our shared humanity to all 3 of the libraries here in the area, Woodbury, Southbury, and Middlebury. And it just went over really well, and it was really fun. So the Rotary Club has taken all of my passion and interests, not all of them, because they don't have a wine club, it's a part of that. That's one of my passions too. But anyway, they take all of the things that are really important to me and allow me to do something service above self. So there are 7 areas of focus, and I will ask each of you to think about this. Are any of these areas of focus important to you? Supporting the environment, education and making it fair, maternal and child health, peace and conflict resolution, water, sanitation, and hygiene for all, economic and community development, and disease prevention and treatment. Those are some of the areas of focus that the Rotary is involved with right now. And the reason I am asked to speak is I'm having a great time with this. If there's something that you want to do, something that you're passionate and excited about, and obviously we're all here, so we have our passion and our excitement. If the Rotary Club sounds interesting to you, Rich Boritz has a little thing that he can email to you that tells you a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts. What I just wanted to do was share my passion and excitement, because along with the Democratic Club, but there's other places and other things that I can actually do and creatively. And so this was really fun. I want to be part of the solution, and the Rotary Club helps me do that. So that's what I wanted to say to you. Any questions?
Ask Ed, of course, we talked about Hate Has No Home here. They want to put out signs. So Ed, would you share your request or program for
Well, hopefully at this point, many of you have seen the signs around town. They're actually more prevalent in Woodbury, known as Hate Has No Home here. Looking around, I know I've delivered signs to some of you. So I thought it'd be useful just to give you some numbers here, because it's pretty impressive, the fact that you've gotten those signs, most of you, for free. Maybe some of you have made a donation. But this is done through one of the indivisible groups known as We Can, and that stands for Western Connecticut Action Network. And We Can was started up along with about 6,000 other grassroots organizations around the country after 2016, where it was felt that the Democratic Party had lost contact with the people. And we needed to do more things at the grassroots level, and we needed organizations that were down at that level and not just thinking about national events. And I think over the 4 years, we've seen a coming together of the indivisible groups like We Can with the local Democratic parties. But initially, this year, it seems a long time ago, and beginning of 2020, their money was going to Reclaim Our Vote, or ROV. And many of you, again, looking around the screen, have been involved in postcards. And you know that those postcards cost money to print, and you know that those stamps cost money to buy. And so that was the initial effort, was that money went there. And I think they put in, or they raised about $1,200 for that. We also gave, we as the Democratic Club gave money for that reason also. Then we started to see some of these far-right group stickers go up around town, and that gave rise to the Hate Has No Home here. And an additional $3,200 was raised for some 600 signs that were purchased that are around town, lawn signs, as well as more posters that go in windows, especially here in the village. And I think it's, everybody has their own opinion, but I think it's having an impact. And because we see a response to that, but we also see it really resonating in our language. I know every Sunday when we're protesting, that's sort of the final line before we all go out to the street, is to remember hate has no home here. So I think it's an important message, but now we're going forward, and they're looking to raise more money. They only have about their goal is money comes in and money goes out. So right now they've got a matching program, and I think I'll put it in the chat, but there's easy ways to make donations online that are going to be matched by the National Indivisible Group. So if you think that Reclaim Our Vote and or Hate Has No Home Here is important, this is one way you can support those two local efforts. And I did want to mention, as a result of some racial issues that happened here in the village, the executive team has requested a bunch of these signs for here in the village. And I think I'm starting to see them more in the village. I saw one across from the meeting house today or yesterday. So I just wanted to give you that update on We Can. They're still looking to do good work here in the town. And if you're interested in supporting them, I'll put some information in the chat area.
Now, Barbara Meckler had an idea for the club. It's kind of like a fun activity for Halloween, something to get ourselves involved in a community event here. So Barbara, would you share what you read and would like to promote?
Sure. We've had a pretty heavy and emotional meeting, so this is something totally silly and frivolous. in comparison. But I think that we could have a really important part to play, although it's silly and frivolous. It's fun, but the timing is perfect for us. I am part of a committee that is involved in something called the Pumpkin Prowl. It's the brainchild of Marcia Brooker in the village. And the object is for clubs and condos to decorate pumpkins. It's going to be held Thursday and Friday, October 29th and 30th. And Rich, I did send you the flyer, which maybe at some point you would forward to everyone. And October 29th and 30th, Friday and Saturday, beginning at dusk, on Hilltop, east and west, so the loop that starts by Pool 4 and then goes all the way around. And participating clubs and condos will be given a space along that route to place their carved and lighted pumpkins, which are become jack-o'-lanterns. They can be placed on rocks, tops of shrubs, in open fields, but each club or condo that's participating will be given a specific area of Hilltop east and west there along the road. And all villagers will be invited, as Marcia says, to prowl the area. Really, we're talking about driving by in your car. And the pumpkins will have battery-operated tea lights. The club will be responsible for carving the pumpkins. It has not yet been determined how many pumpkins our group will get. I think in part it's determined by A, how many we can find that are donated. You do not have to buy a pumpkin. They're to be donated. And B, how many people in each club express interest. So in any case, there are categories for the pumpkins, which I will read you. And okay, so the categories are most creative, scariest, embodies village spirit, funniest, most decorative, and personifies club theme. There are 6 judges. Now, again, this is all in fun. But I think it would be absolutely awesome if our club expressed great interest. And if we could get, say, 12 pumpkins or something like that. I haven't seen anything that discourages children and or grandchildren from participating in carving the pumpkin or for decorating it some other way. But think about this, for a prize for personifies club theme. It's the end of October, people. So it seems to me a perfect time and opportunity, and that we should jump on this.
Regina has a comment, and Regina, would you unmute yourself? And I'm going to ask you to unmute, Regina. And you had a comment about who can deliver the ballot. Is that what
Yes, I counted absentee ballots, and I've been in touch with Denise Merrill. And Connecticut requires only a family member or an official designated person to take a ballot for someone else. So we can't help other people, sadly, to take them to the town hall to that box. I mean,
anybody can drop it in the drop box. No, you can return it. You can't pick it up from the town clerk's office, and you can't request it, but you can return. You could take your whole clusters back and put it in the box. Nobody you don't have to see a person to drop it in the drop box. You just cannot help, not anybody can help somebody else vote with the absentee ballot.
Right. Okay, that's not how I had understood it. And the other thing is, when I counted last year, was that the biggest mistake was not including the interior envelope, which was always tossed out. And it was very sad because I saw a lot from Heritage Village that looked like very elderly people who had filled it out carefully but had neglected that, and they were all tossed out.
Well, if Ed and I make the movie, we will try to get some examples of exactly how to do it, so that, I mean, this is why it'd be better if someone else did it with more technical savvy, so they could show the step by step. But no, Regina, you're right. It's complicated. Nursing homes also, but there are people that can help in the nursing home with.
Yes,
going
I know
through the-
that because, my sister's in one,
Right.
so she's got
Right.
an official, that
Right.
they're allowed to because they're designated, yeah.
Mhm.
If nobody else does, I will add my 2 cents at the end, and that is the election. We need you to get involved one way or another. And there isn't just one way to get involved in an election. I would like to just share something that Jahana Hayes sent, because it lists the ways you could help. And I don't want to read them, but I would like you to know there's more than one way. And we do have all of these happening. And I want you to do your best, please, to help Jahana Hayes, to help Michelle Zomer, and to help Jeff Dismaris. And of course, without saying, our presidential candidate. And even by talking to people in another town. Ed.
Well, I thought maybe we could take advantage of Anna being here. The Congresswoman kind of mentioned about this is going to be I don't know if this was her word, about a dirty campaign where the Republicans are going to lie and make up things about what Jahana has said or what she stands for, et cetera. And I have to admit, I don't get the Republican American, and I don't do social media. So if you ask me, I'd say her opponent is missing in action. But I think that's more a statement about me and my lack of knowledge of what's going on in the campaign. So I don't know if Anna can, I know you've been on the job for a really long time now. What are you seeing from the opposition? What are they doing, if anything?
I think that one of the things is that David Sullivan, who's running against her, came to a rally in Southbury that was held it was a Blue Lives Matter rally that essentially came off as a Trump rally. And so that led to Jeff Manville posting on Facebook about how Jahana is essentially absent in this town, and that David Sullivan is the one who's, putting his face out there. So we really want to focus on making sure that Jahana is seen in this town, even if that, she can't necessarily come out because she is very concerned about COVID. So she doesn't want to make in-person appearances. So it really is up to the volunteers in our town to really get her voice out there and show that she is dedicated to this area and to being here for this area. So anything that you are willing to do to help out, please let me know. You can reach out to me. My email is anna@jahanahays.com for writing postcards, making phone calls, sending texts. We're hopefully, as the election gets closer, going to do some rally type things where, of course, we stay socially distanced, but get people out there with signs for Jahana so that we show that this town has a lot of people behind her. And I'm open absolutely to any ideas. I know that this club is really powerful in your ability to, provide your time and your effort to helping out with campaigns. So I am here to be your resource for whatever you need, and also to help you achieve whatever volunteering efforts you think could be successful.
Thank you, Anna.
Just for the record.
Thank you, Ed.
Well, just for the record, Anna, we've asked the Congresswoman to come twice once in 2019 and once in 2020. And so she's come. So if Jeff Manville has something, he should call her, and she'll find her responsive as we did. But
Yes.
that's my answer to that statement.
Excellent. Rick?
Yeah, thanks. Proud dad of Anna here. Ed, to answer your question more specifically about David Sullivan, when he came to that Back the Blue American Way of Life, really Trump rally, I was there. I was mingling, asking questions. I talked to him for a few minutes, hoping that he was going to be supportive of some of the more outrageous things that the speakers were saying. To his credit, he was not. However, I did get he was walking around totally unmasked. I did get a really nice picture of him with no mask, right under the word bull in a Trump No More Bull poster or flag. So I've given that photo to the campaign. Anna mentioned the things that the campaign is doing. One of the things they're doing is what they're calling, Anna, what do they call it? Outdoor
Lawn parties.
Lawn parties.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might do it for today's meeting. I appreciate everybody's attendance. Please be well. Thank you, Anna, Rick, for attending. And please write your thank you letters to our Congresswoman and letters to the editor. Thanks so much. Bye.